Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another Careers with STEM webinar. My name's Karen Taylor-Brown, and I'm the publisher of Careers with STEM. I'm speaking to you today from Refraction Media Studios in Gadigal country, and I'd like to acknowledge the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. I acknowledge our First Nations people as the original STEM innovators and traditional owners of Australia, and I pay my respects to their elders past, present, and emerging. At the beginning of this term, we launched the 30th issue of Careers with STEM. And in this issue, we took a closer look at the E in STEM, engineering. Engineers design, invent, build, and innovate to solve real-world problems. And they help to shape the world in so many different ways. As new technology emerges, demand for engineering professionals rises. Today, we're going to take a closer look at careers in engineering, how to get into engineering, what the different types of jobs are, and who the employers might be. Now, we're very lucky to have three amazing engineering professionals joining us today who work in engineering and also appeared in the magazine. They're going to share with us some insights about their favourite things about their job, what they do, and how they got there. So if you're joining us live, please get your questions ready. Our engineering professionals are here to answer you. Or you might also be joining us via the Careers with STEM YouTube channel. So thanks for tuning in. Welcome to the webinar. Now, before we start, I want to say a huge thank you to our sponsors who are all about busting myths in engineering and showing you the cool jobs and pathways into these fast-growing careers. The sponsor of the issue is the Commonwealth Bank of Australia, and our event sponsor is the Queensland University of Technology. First, though, it's time to meet your presenter. My name is Karen Taylor-Brown, and I'm the co-founder of Refraction Media, which is a STEM specialist media company. Here's a picture of me and my business partner, Heather, which we took a couple of months ago while we were shooting at the Commonwealth Bank for this engineering issue. During this photo shoot, we got to meet some fantastic engineers, and they all appear in the magazine. So Heather and I started Careers with STEM 8 years ago because we wanted to show the surprising and unexpected ways people were working in STEM jobs. STEM jobs are not just about working in labs, wearing hard hats, doing difficult calculations, or coding. STEM jobs are everywhere, and the people who are working in STEM are solving the world's most challenging problems. In 2014, we started the Careers with STEM Hub. This includes a quarterly magazine, which we deliver directly to every Australian secondary school for free each term. Each issue has a different focus on one of the STEM foundations, and this term, it's engineering. We also do special editions like space, cybersecurity, Indigenous, and apprenticeships and traineeships. At Careers with STEM, we believe that everyone should have equal access to build a better future. Many of tomorrow's careers will combine STEM skills with other areas. We call it STEM plus X, like science plus fashion might equal sustainable clothes. Maths plus conservation could be protecting our most vulnerable animals. STEM jobs are growing at almost 2 times faster than any other job, yet enrolments in STEM degrees and courses are growing much more slowly or even declining, and we'd like to change that. We manage the Careers with STEM website where you can find updated news, videos, and do career quizzes. You can search articles by your favourite STEM, science, technology, engineering, or maths foundation, or your personal favourite X, which is your passion, like health, business, environment, or space. But that's enough about us. Let's get on to the topic of the day, engineering. As the world recovers from COVID, engineers are literally rebuilding the economy, from protecting the built environment from health and climate risks to optimising production of food and agriculture and creating new products and services that future-proof careers in the automation economy. Engineers are at the forefront of economic recovery. In the latest edition of Careers with STEM Engineering, you'll discover the fastest growing engineering jobs, meet real-life engineers and engineering teams, and discover how to build an engineering career in fields as diverse as agriculture, health, robotics, and advanced manufacturing. This is Carly Webb, and she's the head of systems engineering at the Commonwealth Bank. She says that engineering is critical to everything, from the automatic soap dispenser in the bathroom to the app you use for banking. Everything involves engineering. She also thinks it's super important to get the best people into engineering. Otherwise, we won't get the best solutions. Carly's advice to people who are thinking about career options is to find something you have an aptitude for and you feel passionate about, or that will add value to you or others. She says you don't have to be a math genius to get started. Just jump in and give it a shot. You'll learn more as you go. When you study engineering, you'll learn a problem-solving approach that's totally different from the way scientists, marketers, or business-minded professionals approach a problem. You learn to challenge what's established and break big problems down into smaller ones. Wherever you work as an engineer, you are an innovator, disrupting the way things are and creating a better way of doing things. You'll be in demand from day one and work with a mix of people, from those just starting out like you to the people calling the shots. And it couldn't be more rewarding. You'll work in major companies creating new ideas to transform workplaces, processes, technologies, and ideas. The demand for engineers is increasingly on the up, but with so many different variations to engineering, we've rounded up 6 of the fastest growing specializations. Number 1, robotics and automation engineer. These are people who design, build, and test robots, or anything really, with machine learning capabilities. Household helpers like Siri, medical lifesavers or robotic surgery, and agricultural innovations like self-driving tractors all require robotic specialists. And don't think just because you're an automation engineer, the robots that you've built will take your job. In fact, they'll make more of them, what with all the programming that'll be needed to maintain them. Number 2 is civil engineer. You can forget the hard hat wearing stereotype. Civil engineers don't just hang out at construction sites all day. They design, build, service, and adapt the public infrastructure that we depend upon. Think high-capacity roads, cost-effective transport systems, railways, waste networks, airports, flood defences, and pollution control facilities. A recent graduate outcomes survey report revealed above average employment outcomes for civil engineers, with graduates boasting an 88.2% chance of landing a job just 4 months post-uni. Number 3 is a renewables engineer. These engineers work on creating and implementing alternative energy sources such as solar, wind power, and green energy tech. As alternative energy sources become a common thing in most households, installation costs have gone down. This, in turn, has helped boost demand for people to work on developing new tech, as well as inspect, repair, and install existing systems. Number 4 is environmental engineer. These engineers test and operate technologies that correct air and water pollution, clean up contaminated sites, manage land resources, handle certain aspects of public health, and design sustainable infrastructure. Jobs for environmental engineers are predicted to grow by 8.3% by 2026. Number 5 is biomedical engineer. If you're interested in both medicine and engineer, you might consider this. Biomedical engineers are awesome at both, applying their problem-solving skills to design and build devices and equipment used in healthcare and medicine. Think bionic limbs, sophisticated prosthetics, and hearing implants. According to Engineers Australia, there are at least 500 businesses and startups in the biomedical sector, with demand only set to increase as our population ages and healthcare needs increase. Finally, systems software engineer. A systems software engineer designs, develops, and tests the operating systems within which our world functions. The world needs innovators, but it also needs people to create the software to support their big ideas. The demand for software engineers is set to increase by 11% in the next few years. So you've decided you're going to be an engineer. That's great. But you'll need to be prepared for some stiff competition when you graduate, because you'll be competing with about 8,000 other new engineers joining the workforce. It'll help to think about how to equip yourself with the X factor that will mean you stand out to potential employers. Here are 5 ways engineering undergrads can improve their post-uni job prospects. Number 1, join a club. Joining a student club or society is a great way to expand your network, make friends, and boost your employability. Your participation in uni clubs and societies looks great on your CV, offers opportunities to expand your network and make friends, to learn new skills, and they're fun. Number 2, skill up. A degree will equip you with industry-ready skills and knowledge, but feedback from industry tells us that employers want grads with more hands-on experience. So look out for workshops in things like welding, 3D printing, and soldering, so you can stand out and graduate job ready. Number 3, real-world industry experience is hard to beat. Practical placements, internships, volunteering, and industry project opportunities during your degree could make all the difference when you graduate. And finally, find a mentor. Having a mentor while you're at uni has loads of employability pluses. It can expand your professional network, helps you practice relationship building, plus having direct links with top engineers will help you stay ahead of emerging trends and new developments for your chosen field. Engineers are in demand across all sorts of industries. One of the major employers of engineering graduates is the finance industry. This month, the Commonwealth Bank of Australia announced that in an effort to deliver the best digital experiences, it's planning to recruit 2 engineering grads a day. So over the next few months, the Commonwealth Bank plans to appoint more than 600 engineers across a variety of disciplines, including software, systems, data, and test engineers. The recruitment drive will kickstart one of the biggest intakes of engineers for the bank in recent history. But now we're going to meet 3 engineering professionals who are putting their engineering skills to use in 3 different areas. Standing by to meet with us, we have Elise Eng, who's a software engineering at the Commonwealth Bank of Australia. We also have Alex Morgan, who's software engineer at Aussie tech company Atlasian. And we have Associate Professor Sarah Cooperthwaite, who works with mining companies to help reduce waste. And she also works at QUT, training the next generation of innovators. So if you're live with us, get your questions ready. And if you want to read more about these STEM professionals and many more, you can find them at careerswithstem.com. Our first engineering professional is Elise Eng. Elise Eng. Elise is a software engineering at the Commonwealth Bank of Australia, and she's also the Careers with STEM Engineering cover star. Elise did a Bachelor of Information Systems with honours at UNSW, as well as an exchange semester at the National University of Singapore. She secured internships at Westpac, PwC, and Google, and she's just completed the graduate program at the Commonwealth Bank. At the Commonwealth Bank, Elise creates an automated monitoring alert tool for data extracts and data visualizations for CBA stakeholders. So Elise, could you join us and we'll have a Q&A chat with you. Hi, Elise. Hi, I've got you now. How are you?
Good, good. Thank you for having me.
Oh, our pleasure. First of all, when I read that last bit about your job at the Commonwealth Bank, where it said you create automated monitoring and alert tools for data extracts and data visualizations, I just wanted to know a bit more about what that actually is. Can you tell us more about your job?
Yeah, really good question. So I am an engineer that basically looks after tools to help developers be successful. So you might have played around with the CommBank app if you're dabbling with finance. It takes a huge amount of engineers to really bring that off the ground, but there's a layer under that called infrastructure, technology infrastructure, and it's my job to make those tools run so developers can do their job. So when we're thinking about infrastructure, we're thinking about GitHub, TeamCity, you might have heard some of those words, but also just coding things to make developers' lives easier. So there's a lot of automation involved there as well.
Wow, that sounds super cutting edge. And I bet you learn a lot on your job, which sounds amazing. How did you secure your Commonwealth Bank graduate position?
Cool. So the graduate program at CBA is really, really rigorous. I first started with a online questionnaire and interview with CBA. You kind of fill out the form as you go along. Then I was lucky enough to receive a video interview. So I completed that, where you get 5 questions and you answer it. It's kind of like a conversation like this. And then you get into the next round, which is when you meet someone face to face in person. And finally, I was lucky enough to secure that one-on-one interview where they liked, and I thought I was a good fit for the program, and I was fortunate enough to get a position there. So it's a pretty long process, but it's well worth it.
Well, congratulations to make it through to the end and secure such a great job. And I believe that you've recently finished your graduate program and you're now a full software engineer. How does that feel?
It feels amazing. So a bit of context, I didn't actually study engineering at university. I didn't study maths at high school, so I thought it really wasn't for me. But when I started with the grad program, I really loved the technology aspect. And what's really useful about going on a grad program is that you kind of have the flexibility to move around the bank. I found myself a really amazing mentor who was like, yeah, come join engineering. I spent 9 months in this infrastructure team working on pipelines. Really loved it, and they asked me to stay. So now I'm rolled off the program, and I'm a huge advocate for women in STEM trying something new. So if you don't study maths, don't worry. Engineering is all about solving problems, and when you're at CBA, there are lots of technology problems to solve.
Well, that's probably one of the biggest myths busted right there, that you have to be good at maths. So thanks for sharing that with us. What would you say is the coolest part about your job?
Oh, so engineering at CBA is really in vogue right now. And so one of the amazing things about working in engineering is that you get to solve problems every day. So everything is new, everything is exciting, and there's always a technology problem that you really can't look up the answer at the back of the textbook. You have to really use your brain to like put all the pieces together logically. And also they're just amazing people you get to work with. Everyone is super down to earth. You can ask as many questions as you want, and everyone has the common goal to solve that one problem.
Fantastic. It sounds awesome. Now, I mentioned and I read a bit about you completed a few internships at some fantastic employers. What do you think the best thing about doing an internship, either while you're at uni or when you're just out of uni?
So it might sound a little bit funny, but the more internships you do, the more you kind of find out what you don't like. So I started off at Westpac, and I realized that I really liked working in finance, but really didn't like kind of like the project management job that I was doing at the time. And then I moved over to PwC, and that's consulting. They do have engineering jobs there, but I really didn't like kind of the environment that I was working in. I was working really long hours. And then I arrived at Google, and everyone loves Google, but I found that the role just wasn't really right for me. I wanted to do something more technical. So it really allows you to pare down what you like and what you don't like. And I'm a huge advocate for trying a whole different bunch of industries and a whole different bunch of jobs, just to find, I guess, the right place for you when you start off your career.
That sounds like great advice. Now, Elise, I've just had a question from one of the people in our audience. Adam asks, you mentioned that you didn't originally plan on becoming or studying to be an engineer. What was your original plan and what changed your mind?
Oh, okay. So I really wanted to get into medical health and nursing, and doing kind of like psychology and nursing and that sort of thing. But then I was fortunate enough to get a scholarship at UNSW, which was kind of a mixture of business and technology. And I was like, okay, well, I'm good at English, so I could probably do the business part, but I actually didn't have a phone at the time. So I was like, oh, technology, not really sure about that. And then I wanted to do some volunteering, and there was an organization that was affiliated with the university called She Loves Data, and it was kind of had a technology focus, and so I kind of just dabbled in there, and I realized that I really liked data, and I really liked the coding aspect of data, and so I kind of explored my that kind of avenue a little bit more. I did my thesis in data, so that's what honours is. Think of it like a big project that you do at the end of university. I really liked doing data analytics and the like, but I wanted to get more technical, which is why at CBA, I chose to do engineering. So now I'm really hands-on, solving problems every day, working with a lot of data all the time, and it's really fun.
It sounds like fun. Can you give us an example of a really cool project you've worked on at the CBA?
Yeah, so at CBA, we have a lot of tools, not just like hammer and nail sort of tools, kind of like systems to keep the bank running. And there's a lot of data that comes out of those systems. And what we have to do for this project is basically pull all of that data together and try and glean some insights from our tools. And that was really hard because we didn't have any infrastructure, which is quite surprising because we're such a large bank. And so we got a really small team together and we started pulling all this data out of all these systems. That team is featured in the magazine. And I was able to create a monitoring tool that basically collects all of these data sources. And when someone needs to, I guess, investigate or look at a specific data source, there's an automatic alert that allows people who are less technical to find out what they need from this huge data source. And that was really useful for the bank. It was showcased quite at the senior leadership, and we were really fortunate to showcase it to both technical individuals and non-technical individuals to make developers' lives easier.
It sounds like it certainly would make a lot of people's lives easier. Well done. And finally, let's say, what do you do when you're not at work? What are some of your interests outside of being a software engineer?
Oh, I really like climbing. So lead climbing. It's actually on at the Olympics at the moment. So I'm spending a lot of my evenings watching amazing athletes climb up these amazing routes. And also a lot of engineers really like climbing because you're solving problems on the wall. But apart from climbing, I'm a huge hiker as well. I think it might stem from my ability to solve problems and always love a challenge. I really like going out for really, really long hikes. And so when lockdown is over, that's where you'll find me, up a mountain.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for giving us a little bit of insight just now. I'm going to jump back into the presentation for a moment and then speak with our other STEM and engineering professionals, but I'd love it if you could just rejoin us again and give us some final tips at the end of the presentation.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks so much. Our next engineer is Alex Morgan. He also appears in the magazine alongside his teammates Rachel and Pat. Alex is a graduate software engineer at Atlasian, Australia's most successful tech company, which was founded by UNSW alumni Mike Cannon-Brooks and Scott Farquhar. Alex went to university in New Zealand at the University of Auckland, where he completed a Bachelor of Computer Software Engineering. And Alex, I'd love it if you could join us now and have a bit of a chat.
Hi there.
Hi, Alex. Thanks for joining us.
Good to be here.
Fantastic. So, Alex, you were at university in Auckland, and I understand from reading your article in the magazine, you actually nailed your graduate position before you even graduated. Can you tell us a little bit about your university experience and how you managed to do that?
Yeah, sure. So I did software engineering, so a Bachelor of Engineering specializing in software, which it just seems to be the case that there's a lot of these sort of big tech companies that are clamoring over each other to get people that are software engineers. So the dates that they do their interviews kind of creep earlier and earlier and earlier. So I actually interviewed for Atlasian and like a few other companies in April, May of my final year, and signed the contract in like end of May and started working January the following year. So there was like 6 months where I knew I had a job, but I still had to like finish my degree and get all that stuff sorted.
That's great. It must have been a bit of a weight off your mind to know that you had your job secured and you could actually focus on the degree side of things. And also exciting to be moving to Australia. How did it make you feel at the time?
Yeah, I was pretty stoked. One of my sort of career goals was to get to work overseas. So having a company that's going to help take care of some of the complexity of that was really nice. And yeah, it was a big weight off my shoulders for the end of uni, knowing that that was all squared away. Although actually doing a million interviews and all that kind of stuff, because I was trying to talk to different companies and things at the beginning of the year, while also doing uni, was a bit less fun.
Yeah, well, congratulations on getting it. And what do you think are some of the good things about the Atlassian graduate program?
I think the best thing about being a grad is it's almost not a feature of being a grad so much as that it is everyone listens to you. Like, even though you're the newest person in the room in most of your meetings and stuff, people will take whatever you say seriously. Ideas are kind of treated on their merit. So I could just come straight in, join a team, and start asking questions, being like, why do we even do it like this? And get serious answers rather than like, that's the way that we've always done it, or any of that kind of stuff. And the other really great thing is all of the other grads start at the same time as you. So you have this big pool of, like, I think for my group, it was about 100 of us who are all going through the same experience. And so you make a bunch of great friends straight away, which was so nice for me having just moved here. Yeah. And so then you immediately just have this built-in network of people across the company that you can ask for help or who've gone through the same stuff as you.
Yeah, that sounds great. And it's really important to feel like you're being heard. So that's a really good element of that program. Now, Atlassian is a fantastic Australian technology success story. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the products and some of the things that you make at Atlassian?
Sure. So the whole kind of idea of the company is it's all about like teamwork and helping people to work more effectively together. So there's a few different products that are across that. I worked on a product called Jira, which is the biggest one I think that we have, which is about managing all of the like items that you need to do, all the tasks that you have to do for whatever your job is, keeping track of who wants you to do them, what the details are, all of that, and what the status is as they move along from like we're working on it to it's done and all that. So like tracking people's work and who's working on what. So very teamwork focused. And then recently I've actually moved to a different product, which is one of our newer ones, which is like another level of abstraction up, a little bit more conceptual, where it's rather than tracking individual people's work, it's about tracking projects and communicating like, hey, this thing that we're working on, it's been delayed because of this reason, we expect it to be done here, all that kind of stuff, so that people in like big companies can know what everyone else is doing and not get in each other's way.
Yeah, and I bet that's especially useful now with so many people working remotely and teams needing to communicate using technologies. That's great. I also read that innovation is a big thing where you work, and there's an Atlassian hackathon that you are a part of called Ship It, and your team actually won. Can you tell us a bit more about the hackathon and what was your innovation?
Sure. So Ship It is a big event that we do once a quarter, so 4 times a year, where anyone that wants to in the company can take whatever idea they have and just try to make it over this 2-day period. And so it's a bit chaotic. There's everyone kind of running around trying to figure out how to make their thing. And then at the end of that, we all get together and present whatever we've worked on, and everyone can vote. So we won the people's favorite. We ended up getting into the finals, and I had to present in front of a couple of thousand people on Zoom, thankfully, not in a room. And it's great because you get to take whatever idea that you've got and just sort of show everyone like, hey, this is what it would look like. It's a good opportunity to get buy-in from other teams or people in the company of like, hey, maybe we should dedicate some time to make something like this a reality. And you get to work with people you don't get to work with on the day-to-day. So in our case, our team was actually almost entirely grads. So it was just a bunch of friends that got together and said, hey, this would be fun. Which was really
Sounds
cool.
so cool. Did you always want to be a software engineer or work in engineering? Were you especially techie when you were at high school?
Not super techie. I was more of like a science nerd, I guess. Like my favorite subjects were like chemistry, physics, and philosophy. But I knew I didn't want to be a lawyer because I did not like English at school and I was bad at memorization. So that I was like leaning into some stereotypes there, but I ruled that out. And so I was like, okay, I guess I'll do engineering. I actually expected to do chemical engineering, but the Auckland University program is really good. They get you to try out every type. And so I tried out software and absolutely loved it. So ended up here.
Oh, that's great. And that actually relates to a question we've got from one of our viewers, Adam from Mount St. Joseph's Girls College, asks, is there another area of engineering that you one day hope to branch into to add to your software engineering expertise?
So that's interesting because it kind of leans into one of the reasons that I chose software engineering. As like a branch of engineering, it was really appealing to me because there's a little bit of software in everything. Every industry has some level of like technology involved. So part of the reason I chose it was because I like that idea of being able to just turn up in some industry and learn all about what their problems are. And then I've got this like toolkit of software stuff that I can use to deal with that or get involved. So for me, it's less about maybe moving into another type of engineering so much as kind of going around and figuring out other stuff and how I can use my software to apply to that. So yeah, absolutely. Like the idea of constantly learning is something that was really appealing.
Definitely. It's very important now too. So what's next for you, Alex? Have you got any plans on the agenda where you'd like to be in either 12 months or 5 years? Any big ambitions?
At the moment, I'm trying to figure out whether I want to go down sort of the engineer and developer path and get a lot sharper in terms of writing code and things like that, or if I want to move into more of a product management type role of really focusing on like what do customers want, what features should we add, and that kind of stuff. So still figuring that out and scoping things out, but it's really nice to be able to kind of be in an industry where there's some ability to shuffle your path as you're going along.
Definitely. And what about outside of work? What are your interests outside of working at Atlassian?
It's largely your kind of stereotypical nerd stuff of like games, board games. But I do love to like get outside, go for a walk and play like a lot of sport. I find that exercise is easier when you have like some goal that's not just like lifting heavy stuff. Yeah. So I do love a bit of like soccer, volleyball, cricket.
Sounds good. Well, thanks so much for giving us some of those insights and telling us about your workplace and what sort of work you do. That's been really helpful. And I'm sure a lot of the people that are viewing this will get some good ideas out of that. Would you be okay to stay around for a little bit longer and I'll call you back just to ask you to give a final piece of advice?
Sure thing.
Excellent. Thanks so much. I'm going to jump back just really quickly into the presentation. STEM professional. We are about to speak with Sarah Cooperthwaite, so we're going to move, and Sarah Cooperthwaite, who is an industrial chemist at QUT, working on the upscaling process to build mini plants. I think I'll ask her to explain that a little bit more when she comes on. Sarah works with mining companies to make mining less damaging to the environment by using clean technologies and recycling every scrap of water she can. Sarah is also an associate professor at QUT, and her tip for young inspiring innovators is, if you're presented with an opportunity to expand your knowledge and skills, take it, irrespective of whether this was in your original plan. So Sarah, I just invite you to join us for a quick Q&A and find out a little bit more about what area you work in.
Thanks, Karen.
How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
That's excellent. Now, can you tell us a little bit more about how you first became interested in turning waste into something we can use?
Yeah, so it was actually during my PhD when I realized just how big of a technological and environmental challenge the management of tailings, which is the waste product of mining processes, actually is. So we have huge amounts of potential resources stored in these large tailing dams, and we should be utilizing them rather than digging up new resources from the ground. For me, it just makes sense. It's more sustainable to reprocess what we've already dug out of the ground. And that's really what I focus on.
That's great. So would you describe it as a win-win, a win for the environment as well as a win for the mining companies?
Yeah, so reprocessing tailings means that you've already dug it up, you've already broken it down, so you've crushed it up so it's a small size, so that you can then start extracting different metals from the original ore. And for the environment, the more you reprocess, the less we store in the environment and thus, reduce that risk.
That sounds like a great solution. When you're working with the mining companies, are you often on site there? And can you tell us a little bit more about the day-to-day in terms of what you do for this type of work?
Yep. So every chance I get, I do like to go on field. Unfortunately, in my current role, I don't get to do that so much. I typically lead the large research teams now. But every opportunity to go out and just be on site and understand, I guess, the sheer scale of what we're dealing with in terms of the tailings is a great opportunity for me. In terms of my day-to-day, like I said, I lead a team of scientists and engineers. I've got 10 people in my team that I lead. And what we're really trying to do is to take an industry problem, work together to solve it, and eventually try and take it from the lab to larger scale, which is something which is in the background of my photo there. We've actually now scaling up a process that we developed in the lab, which was only 200 grams of material. Now we're going to make 20 kilos of that material in that new facility that we're currently building.
That's fantastic. Wow, it's so exciting what you do. And it sounds like you collaborate with a lot of people across the STEM spectrum, a lot of different STEM professionals. When you've worked with engineering graduates, what do you think are some of the key skills for a successful career as an engineer?
For me, I really find graduates that can think outside the box is really critical. A lot of the times, these are new problems, new challenges, and we have to be willing to think beyond what we learned. So on top of that, it's being able to critically think about that problem and really understand what the client or who presented you the problem, what they really want to achieve. The other critical component, I think, of being an engineer is being able to communicate effectively to really fully understand what that challenge is that's being presented to you and what the problem is that you have to solve.
They're two really great insights. So when you're not out in the field or researching, you also work with students at university. Can you tell us a little bit about how high school students could help prepare for a successful undergraduate journey?
Yep, so I might actually phrase this response as if I'm talking to the students. So really don't shy away from doing the harder subjects like math, chemistry, and physics at high school. These subjects actually form the foundation for starting a career in engineering. So the other thing is to look for opportunities to expand your knowledge or skills prior to coming to university. And what you'll find is that a lot of universities offer first year units to high school students so that you can sort of accelerate your career path. And QUT does this with the Start QT, but I know that other universities do it as well. The other thing is try and find a job, any job really. It provides you with opportunities to improve your communication and your teamwork skills, which will be critical throughout your degree. And I guess once you get to university, the big thing that you really want to try and do is to build a social network, to build a support system for you, like mentally and your well-being, but also for your learning. So as Karen mentioned, student societies, I'm a big advocate that you do join one. You not only meet new people, but it's those societies where they bring all your industry partners together where you can find your mentors. The last bit of advice I'd say is once you're at university is find all the resources available to you. You don't just learn from people like me standing in front of you in a lecture theatre. There are people that can help you with your assignments, career development, and counselling. And university is really a community and you really want to get involved in it.
Those are fantastic insights. Thank you so much for sharing those. And they're really well directed to high school students. I've just got a question here from the audience that I'd like to put to you. Adam asks, do you think it's important to know as a high school student what area of engineering you want to get into, or is it okay to figure it out as you go?
It's okay to figure it out as you go. So when I went to university, my plan was actually to be a math and chemistry teacher. I've obviously taken up a few opportunities along the way, and I'm now an associate professor working in the engineering school, leading scientists and engineers. But my qualification was actually industrial chemistry, yet my day-to-day work is more now aligned with chemical process engineering. So you don't have to know what you want to do when you come. The main thing is when you're choosing your subjects, choose ones that you are passionate about and do a bit of a test of each one. Sort of what Alex was saying. He went in there wanting to do chemical engineering, but he was introduced to software, and that was something that he formed more of a passionate bond with. So you don't have to know, just be willing to try other things and see where it leads you.
That's so helpful and so inspiring. Thank you so much for that advice. Now, what I'm just going to do is jump back into the presentation really quickly, but Sarah, can I invite you back to give some last pearls of wisdom to our students before we sign off?
Of course.
Thanks. Speak to you soon. So you can read more about cool ways engineering is solving real world problems in all sorts of areas like agriculture, health, advanced manufacturing in the Careers with STEM Engineering magazine. Just a couple of examples to point you toward. Aerospace engineer Dr. Anastasia Volkova is combining her passion for food and flight with business know-how to help farmers produce crops that don't cost the earth. She says, we're not just embracing productivity, we're minimizing the cost of the planet. Or chemical engineering undergraduate from the University of Adelaide, Lucy Penner, who is using a biofuel byproduct to make sustainable, nutritious vegan food. Or Edith Cowan University mechatronics student Scott Cashman, who caught the electronics bug while he was working as a technician at a white goods repair store. Now in his final year of his degree, Scott is working on 2 projects intended to solve problems in the real world. One is an unmanned ground vehicle, or UGV, and the other is a robot barista. So just before we conclude our webinar, I want to invite each of our amazing engineering experts to come back on and finish off with a final piece of advice to anybody who's considering a career in engineering. So I'll first start with Elise. If you could join us and just give us your top tip to a student that might be listening today, that'd be great.
Well, I kind of have 2, to be honest. The first one is do maths. I didn't do maths, and what Sarah said about doing the hard subjects is really important. If I could go back in time, I would definitely do maths. But my second piece is like, find something interesting in the world, whether it's like TikTok or Facebook or like your mobile phone, and then like see if you can like break that down into its core components and see where that takes you. If you like it, great. If you don't, find something else to break and pull apart. So do maths and break things.
Do maths and break things. Those are 2 key points. Thanks for that. And thank you so much for joining us. Alex, what's your final piece of advice to a student that might be listening in today?
I think the thing is to think about careers not as like you get into one path and then are immediately stuck in it for like the rest of your life. It's more about finding some sort of industry or specialization that really appeals to you, and then just take that next step of getting some qualifications that are in that area, and then you'll know so much more about what is a possibility. So really just don't stress too much about the rest of your life. Just like figure out that next step and it'll be all right.
Very important. Don't stress too much. We can all take that on board. And Sarah, finally, what would you like to tell our students?
For me, I think it would be understand what your values are and adapt your STEM knowledge and skills to achieve them. So mine was sustainability. So whatever I do, I bring that into my career. The other thing, if I can just add, is just don't be afraid to try new and challenging things. These are actually the experiences you grow and learn from the most.
That is so helpful. So for the 3 of you, I'd like to say thank you for joining. If anyone in our audience wants to read a little bit more, jump online or grab a copy of the magazine from your school and you can read more about these amazing engineering professionals we've got and a whole bunch more. So thanks again for joining us to the panelists, and we'll see you another time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. So if you want to find out a little bit more, and if today has demonstrated how varied and important engineering careers are, you could check out QUT. So the wide range of disciplines offered at QUT means that no matter what your interests, there's bound to be at least one facet of the sector you'll find engaging, whether it's civil, electrical, chemical and process, or mechanical engineering. If you like creating, designing, or building, engineering has a place for you. And remember, engineering isn't just about maths, science, and technical skills. It's also about social awareness, leadership, project management, and problem-solving skills. That brings us to the end of this Careers with STEM Engineering webinar. Thank you for joining us here live or for viewing later on YouTube. If you want to find out more about engineering careers or read our engineering magazine, head to the website, careerswithstem.com. Check out the e-edition or navigate to our engineering articles under the categories and profiles. Thank you to our amazing panelists who joined us today and to the editorial team at Careers with STEM who put the magazine together. The next issue comes out in October, and that one is all about technology plus cybersecurity. See you next time, and thanks for joining.